Tanse. I'm Krisa Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Edmonton police homicide detectives are now confirming that missing 14-year-old Samuel Bird is presumed deceased, and his death is believed to be criminal in nature. Edmonton police updated the case on Wednesday and are appealing to the public to be on the lookout for any remains. APTN's Dennis Ward reports.
Investigators also said today that Bird was last seen on surveillance video on the evening of June 1st, eventually ending up at a residence. Police conducted a search warrant at that residence in September. According to police, the suspect or suspects involved in Bird's disappearance may have disposed of his body no more than 150 kilometers from Edmonton, and that this occurred within a short time of his disappearance in June. A map of the possible areas where his remains may be hidden was released today. Police have conducted 3 searches using specialized personnel and canine resources. Bird's family has also been conducting searches with the help of community volunteers.
After an intensive 4-month police investigation, what occurred to Samuel in the hours after he left his mother's residence remain the subject of this investigation. I can now say, based on the totality of information, that there are reasonable grounds to believe Samuel is deceased and that his death is criminal in nature.
Samuel always said I love you and gave me a hug before he left anywhere, and I miss his humor tons. I will forever miss our talks. We stand here in the shadow of a much larger injustice, the ongoing crisis of our missing and murdered Indigenous children and youth. This is not just about Samuel. This is about the systems that continue to fail our families and the silence that too often surrounds our pain. I am calling on all leaders, matriarchs, elders, youth, and allies to continue to stand with us. We need your voices, your presence, and your prayers. Join us in searching and gathering and demanding justice, not only for Samuel, but for all of our children.
His Cree name is Atsabi. The borrowed name is Samuel. I want him to be known as Atsabis when you guys talk about him, not his borrowed name. I stand in front of all you people, whoever's listening to me, that kinanas komt now. I thank you all, the people that are involved in this search, the people that are doing the work.
Samuel was a huge part of my life, and now there's a hole in my heart that will never be filled. I can't enjoy life anymore. And until we find him, we will never have closure. Finding Sam has always been the focus, which is why I haven't spoken publicly until now. My family and I will continue to look for Sam by foot, boat, and helicopter.
And my apologies, everyone. That was T.R. Wheatley who was reporting, not Dennis Ward. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations has released its response to the forensic audit carried out by Indigenous Services Canada and auditing firm KPMG. The FSIN says the audit contains inaccuracies that have cast the organization in a negative light. APTN video journalist Rachel May brings us this update.
The FSIN has released a written statement and a 10-page fact sheet in response to the September 26 summary of the Indigenous Services Canada KPMG forensic audit. The summary said $34.2 million in expenses from 2019 to 2024 was categorized as either questionable, ineligible, or unsupported. The FSIN says their response is based only on the summary because they haven't received the full report. The statement, which is not attributed to any specific person, says the classification of $23.5 million in personal protective equipment during the COVID-19 pandemic as questionable is baseless. The Federation says every transaction within the PPE category is accounted for, and their actions during the pandemic saved lives. The FSIN also says they had just 10 business days to respond to 717 questions about transactions spanning 5 years. The FSIN also said unapproved travel costs are reimbursed by employees. Executive raises were agreed upon by the organization's Treasury Board. Clerical errors were behind overpayments to past employees. The Treasury Board signed off on samples that ISC flagged as unapproved. The statement closed by saying many First Nations lack the capacity to handle audits of this scale, and that limited funding and short timelines set them up for failure. APTN has reached out to FSIN Chief Bobby Cameron and Indigenous Services Canada for comment. We haven't heard back yet, and we will continue to follow this story. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
The war of words between BC Premier David Eby and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith got testier this week. Alberta is proposing a new oil pipeline to BC's northern coast, but Premier Eby is dismissing the project as not real. CTV's Rob Buffum has the story and reaction from BC First Nations.
A news conference announcing a new school on Vancouver Island was dominated by a pitch for a new oil pipeline from Alberta to BC's northwest coast.
Proposals being advanced from Alberta are just that. They are sketched out on a piece of paper. There is no proponent. It is entirely taxpayer funded.
Eby, responding to news, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's government is formally applying to Ottawa's Major Projects Department for the new pipeline.
This is not just a question of Alberta's energy. It is a global moral imperative.
Smith has pushed the plan repeatedly, but now she's announced 3 private pipeline companies are consulting on the project. Her province has ponied up $14 million to fund the application, and she expects the feds to lift key obstacles, including emissions caps and the oil tanker ban on BC's coast. She's calling this moment a test of whether Canada works as a country.
Because if we can't build with collaboration of the federal government and between provinces, if it's everybody gets to get their products going to market except Alberta, that's not a country. A country is one where we support each other.
Coastal First Nations oppose lifting the tanker ban, don't want the pipeline, and say there's been no consultation.
They've put the cart before the horse. They've made an announcement before ever coming and having any conversations with us. That already shows a level of disrespect.
Asked about previous responses suggesting he was possibly open to a pipeline, Eby didn't mince words.
I am being polite. There is no project. There is no bridge to cross unless the Albertan government and the federal Canadian government are committing billions of taxpayer dollars to build this project. Don't mistake my politeness for weakness.
Smith fired back, politeness seemingly taking a back seat to escalating pipeline politics.
If we had been able to redraw the map at the founding of Alberta, maybe we would have drawn it with a little bit of British Columbia so that we had a port. Maybe Port of Prince Rupert would have been part of Alberta.
Robert Buffum, CTV News.
That much acclaimed Bear Grylls musical continues to be a big hit across Turtle Island. That story when we come back. Welcome back. Bear Grylls is an indigenized version of the 1978 hit musical Grease. The production has just finished its off-Broadway run in New York City over the past 2 months, and the all-indigenous cast just completed their first stop back on the road across Canada in Winnipeg with 2 sold-out shows. Julia Ross spoke with some of the Greasers.
Let's watch Grease. And Summer Lovin' came on, and he looks at me and goes, Summer snagging had me a blast. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Summer snagging happened so fast. And then he goes, I met a girl, she's Enoch Cree. And I went, I met a boy, he's not related to me. And we started laughing, and it was hilarious. And we said, wouldn't it be amazing if there was an indigenous version of Grease?
Crystal Lightning and her husband Cloud created Bear Grylls the musical in their basement during the pandemic. The production was originally planned to have a short run at the Edmonton Fringe Festival, but audiences wanted more.
Ani, Tanza, hello, my name is Amy Bosch. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I am a Bear Grylls lover, as you can see. Big, beautiful pink auntie.
Bear Grylls was performing off-Broadway in New York City for over 2 months, and after a short break, the cast is back on the road now performing across Canada.
The first stop on their tour was Winnipeg, with 2 sold-out shows at the Burton Cummings Theatre.
Starting in New York to coming to my hometown was, amazing. We did about 2 months in New York. It was the most amazing experience, different crowd every night performing.
Mikey Harris is from Saugeen First Nation and has been starring as Buddha in Bear Grease.
Be able to tell people I'm from Saugeen First Nation in New York City, just a little res kid, living in New York on Broadway and just down the street from all these like huge musicals and where all these stars are, like, man, and just I really repped hard for Manitoba and my family and where I'm from and the dance. So it's really a huge honor and I'm blessed I can do it.
As part of the indigenizing process of Grease, Harris incorporated jigging into the show, with Bear Grease Lightning as a standout number.
It's my favorite section because I get to put jigging in there. And we're taking jigging across the world, I guess, with the Bear Grease Lightning. And yesterday when I came up there, I couldn't even hear the music. That's how loud it was.
Bear Grease features a roundy-style version of Hopelessly Devoted to You. A song sung in Cree, Indigenous fashion, beadwork, humor, and language.
Bear Grease is the Indigenous version of Grease. So we took the classic 1978 musical and we just indigenized it through fashion, language, our humor, and just kind of made it very specific. Plugged in Indigenous actors, and then instead of them wearing poodle skirts, we put bears and ribbons on it. So it's still an A-line skirt. We still have, the crinoline underneath. It's like, what if we never were colonized? This is what it would look like.
You can follow Bear Grease behind the scenes on social media and see them perform as they complete their Canadian tour with their next stop in the East Coast. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Such a cool story, Julia. Thank you for that. There were numerous events in Vancouver for the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation as the Britannia Community Centre hosted a walk-in gathering on the West Coast. Ryan Cunningham has that story.
As Truth and Reconciliation Day events marched across the country, Indigenous and non-Indigenous people had time to reflect on what Orange Shirt Day means to them, including Florence Ranville from the Pine Creek First Nation in Manitoba.
Phyllis Webstad's story about her going to Indian residential school, and she only had her orange shirt, and obviously that was even stripped of her from any memory from where she was from and with her parents or her family. And I also have 2 grandmothers that went to residential school, and I myself was raised in Catholic schools. So there's a history there and I can understand it.
This is the 4th year the Britannia Community Services Centre in East Vancouver has hosted this event. Although Britannia is a non-Indigenous organization, Suzette Amaya is the manager and producer for this event.
My role is really to bring reconciliation to the community and help make reconciliation more of an action plan of having Indigenous staff, Indigenous programming, knowledge keepers, and I'm just honored to be able to coordinate this event today.
Well over 500 people of all ages joined the march and events throughout the afternoon. Suzette has seen a big change over the last few years.
I think that across the nation we've seen a lot more things that are happening, not so performative. We're seeing it in schools that people are being educated, and we're just, bringing more awareness that we're still here and that we're resilient.
As a sea of orange swells across Canadian streets, more and more Canadians are paying their respects to the children who never came home and the trauma left in their wake. Ryan Cunningham, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Thank you, Ryan. We now want to tell you about this week's second web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, is financial compensation crucial to reconciliation? Your answers are yes, no, it depends, or not sure. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca to have your say. The questions are on the right-hand side of the homepage. Chief Robert Joseph, the creator of the Reconciliation Canada organization, is up next. We'll be right back. Miigwech for staying with us. St. John 6, Charlottetown sunny and 12. Anujiwak 8, La Grande River 12. Saguenay 9 and sunny, Quebec City 12. Peterborough 15 and sunny there, Toronto 17. Sudbury 17 there, Sioux Lookout 18 and sunny. Puckatawagan 12, Thompson showers and 12. 18 in Gimli, Princess Harbor 17. Swift Current 11 and sunny, Saskatoon 8. Buffalo Narrows 7, Meadow Lake 8 as well. Rain and high level at 12, Fort McMurray 18. Calgary 20 and sunny, Red Deer 21. Campbell River 13, Penticton 17. Fort Nelson 15 and sunny, Prince George 13. Old Crow 2, Mayo 5. Yellowknife 10, Fort Simpson 9. Tuktoyaktuk 1, Pulatuk 2. Baker Lake 7, Chesterfield sunny and 6. And Iqaluit +2, Aglulik -2. On Wednesday's show, we brought you an interview with Chief Robert Joseph. He created the Reconciliation Canada organization. In part 2 of his interview with Tina House, he shares his own experiences within the residential school system. Here's that interview.
Chief, I know that you personally are a survivor as well. Would you share a little bit of your history?
Yeah, when I was a little boy, I grew up in this little place called Wyostums. I didn't know any other people yet. We're all from Wyostums. And they all spoke one language. And it was a really tight community. The children were the center of their universe. They had all kind of wonderful names for us. Oadzi, Kola'yu. They made us feel so central to their lives, so connected, so belonging. And everybody in that community cared for our well-being. And so eventually when I turned 6, I was taken to Alert Bay where there was this residential school. And it really was horrific, the experience. And it ran for 11 years actually I was in school. And I think I experienced every form of dehumanization and belittlement and humiliation and embarrassment and hurt and pain and loss of everything I felt about myself, my value, and those kind of things. The food was horrible. We never really learned anything. All of the things that and I don't know what they are even today, all of the things that we should have been learned about, we didn't learn. Instead, we just faced in the classroom horrendous put down all the time. And it didn't matter where we were in the school, if we're in a dining room. Just a quick story. One day we were having porridge and I looked into my porridge and there was this worm in there and I thought, oh my God. And I didn't know what to do. I'd never seen a worm and something I was going to eat like porridge. So I looked over at my friend to my right. He was a little guy too. And he was just shifting the worm over to the side of the bowl and ate it. And it was just malnourishment for a long time. And the first morning we were sent to bed, waking up to a bell, a huge bell. The supervisor banging in through the bedroom, screaming obscenities, turning over some beds, ripping off blankets from others, and hollering instructions, stand beside your bed, you little savages. And it was just horrific. The very first moment of waking. And by the time we all left, most of us we never were built or developed to what we should have been, our potential or whatever it was that we should have been. And so it was really heartbreaking when I look back, and I sank into depression, addiction, alcohol addiction. I got married. I had no idea how it was to be a good parent because we never grew up with our parents, right? And my marriage fell apart, and everything in my life was impacted by that early experience, and none of those impacts were any good.
I'm so hurt that you went and experienced all of that, and so many others did as well. You know, thousands and thousands of our people suffered in these so-called schools. You know, as a journalist, I've been covering these stories for many years now, and to hear little children like yourself suffering and being treated in such a horrific way. Leading up to the apology from the Pope, did you ever think that we would actually hear an apology from the Pope in our time?
Yeah, I did. I always had faith that the Prime Minister would apologize, that eventually the Pope would apologize. When you start exposing horrible things, and you expose them really in the name of love, that the little children didn't get to experience, but in the name of love in the present moment for people who are good people. We have good people too. They weren't all evil or bad. And this reconciliation process where we've just been able to find them. And the first time I really was convinced was that walk we had here in Vancouver. 70,000 people walking. I said, oh my God. And I knew that we were on the right road, that this energy, it was new to the people. It would carry forward. And it still is. I'm not sure its exact state, but reconciliation is still with us. All these segments of society in some way, to some degree, are trying to engage and respond to this call for us to be our higher selves, right? And I think it's still unfolding slowly. It'll take different directions from time to time. But as long as we have Orange T-shirt Day and National Truth and Reconciliation Day and good people out there who have never stopped trying to do their part in bringing us together as all of us who live here, right? It's going to be okay. It's going to continue. Yeah.
Chief Bobby Joe, I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for all of the many, many years of work. Thank you for surviving, and thank you for being who you are and being one of our leaders that we cherish in this country, leading reconciliation in Canada. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Chief Joseph and Tina. And that's your daytime newscast for this Thursday. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast in a few hours, including a brand new segment of Truth in Politics. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hai hai miigwech masi cho kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.